Welcome to another Vurbmoto podcast. I am your host, Brad Gebhardt. I'm on about like a third of these podcasts, roughly, depending on how active that the vanilla broadcast actually dusts off their recording equipment and pulls the trigger on actually doing a podcast or a broadcast, as they refer to call it. With me on the line here on our Zoom call to break down all the 2024 Supercross expectations, action, and everything else in between is my good friend. Some call him Zac Herrin Dean. Me, he's Zac Herrin. How's it going there, Zac?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I know I'm a full-time GNCC guy back announcing in 2024, but motocross and supercross is where my heart's at. And so I'm excited. I know we say it every year, but with the field this deep this year, there's too much to break down to not do this. So yeah, we got a lot to talk about.
Yes, sir. You are one of the boys who bring the noise over at GNCC, along with Mikey Waynes and is it Casey?
Jackson
Jackson, my
Burke.
bad.
Yep.
And I'll have to the written apology to Jackson. I'll submit that directly to HR over at MX Sports Entertainment there. But people probably have a little bit of an idea who I am. I'm basically just an online shit talker. But you yourself, in addition to calling the action for GNCC, where does your well of knowledge and expertise sort of lie?
Yeah, well, expertise may be a strong word. I feel like we're all just we've got the expert opinions, right?
Yeah.
But no, man, absolutely grew up racing. I'm from Central North Carolina here in the States, and my father grew up racing. He works in the industry, and so to say this is a part of my blood is as legit as it gets. I've grown up with it and felt the ebb and flows with the industry, and obviously followed it as closely as you can. While I am certainly not a professional racer, I'm a professional spectator, and now I guess technically a professional broadcaster as well. So I've been broadcasting the sport of motocross for over 10 years now. Got a college degree to try to prove that I was official in it, and like you said, getting picked up. I do the North Carolina AMA series here, and then starting last year, I went full time with GNCC Racing and MX Sports. So with that comes Loretta Lynn's, of course, as well, which was probably my favorite event of the year. I got the pleasure of racing there in 2015. But to come back, I got to play music, which is a whole nother story as well in 2022 out at the ranch. But no, in 2023, got to call the action. What a year it was. You were out there. Just crazy weather conditions, great racing. And now back here for 2024 and looking for some more, man. So excited to get A1 kicked off and get the race season underway.
Looking forward to it, man. And for those who are watching on YouTube, you may recognize Zac from a couple of the vlogs that we did. It was you and I first met at Verbadilla. They put a GoPro in your hand, and we were making some toys, as well as you were at Lincoln Trail, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up. My relationship with Vurbmoto started this year as well, out in January at the Shoals MX, which is where you rung in the new
Yes,
year.
sir.
And so Stu Baylor actually introduced me with Brent and the guys, and we really kind of hit it off. I really liked what they were doing with that Verb Shred Tour. Just a bunch of people really excited about dirt bikes and being around them and riding them in awesome conditions. And so, yeah, I got the call to go up to Unadilla up in New York, and that's where I had the pleasure of meeting might be my favorite Canadian. I don't know. I think I know another guy who's Canadian, so it's a 50-50. But no, that's where we met, and yeah, the bromance started from there. Just talking about dirt bikes, calling the action, man, and throughout the year, like you said, going out to Lincoln Trail, those guys did an amazing series out there. The Thor series, back and forth on their two different tracks, hanging out with Brett Q and just keeping people excited about riding motorcycles. So yeah, looking to do more of that with Vurbmoto this year as well. They capture the emotion that is this sport, man. We're goofy, but we love this sport with a passion that very few understand. So excited to be on board with those guys.
Hey, you gotta love this sport to go to those quote unquote flyover states like Illinois to or Missouri to celebrate the sport. But honestly, that is where the core and the heart of the sport lives. That's where the weekend warriors get after it every single week. And now I appreciate the kind words. We were in fact separated at birth of only about 9 years apart. I don't want to go too far into this without letting everybody know that registration is open for not only the Gypsy 500, which unfortunately you will not be in attendance for. That's when the GNCC series kicks off. So I will have to ride your laps as part of our two-person team. My forearms will be non-existent. They'll be fictitious by the end of that. But I also want to everybody who's listening to this know that all you've got to do is email brad@vurbmoto.com with the subject line contest to win yourself a set of gold valves from Race Tech. That's right. All you've got to do is email me, brad@vurbmoto.com, subject line contest, and give me a little bit of a spiel as to why you need yourself some gold valves in your dirt bike, and I will hook that up. Thank you to Checkers, who works at Race Tech. He's unable to join us for this podcast. He was on last year's when this is a Big MX radio show. But he's still making his contribution with an easy $180 value on these gold valves. And no, Zach, if you email me during the show with the contest form, you won't be eligible to win because I think we're gonna set you up either way.
Heck yeah. I'd say disregard your email.
Yeah, just disregard that email. You've already been put to spam anyway, so you know how that rolls. So one last time, brad@vurbmoto.com, email, subject line contest, and yeah, give me a little bit of spiel as to why you deserve or need a set of gold valves for your dirt bike. Now, let's talk 450 Supercross. We're going to touch a little bit on the 250s as well, but the premier class is the premier class for a reason. That's who that's who really pays the bills. As far as getting tickets sold, although you could argue over the last couple of years that that Jetson guy probably sold some tickets as well with his antics in the 250 class. We're going to go manufacturer by manufacturer. It's going to be a little bit rapid fire because odds on this is probably the last preview pod that you've listened to from about 9 other podcasts that currently exist within the sphere. But Vurbmoto would be remiss if we don't at least preview this series, get the hype to the absolute roof, raise it up, and talk about it. Let's break things off with Beta. They're a brand new team, brand new motorcycle, brand new to Supercross, although they've got a former champion in Colt Nichols and the world's tallest racer in Benny Bloss. Why don't you kick things off for me with Beta?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. You talk about how all the questions coming into 2024. Beta's probably got the most of them. We haven't seen anything out of them yet. Like you said, brand new as far as the manufacturer to Supercross. As far as their program goes, I know some people between Triumph and Beta, they weren't really stoked about the release of the motorcycles. Everybody's got their different ideas to how a motorcycle should be introduced to the population. But nonetheless, from the outside looking in and from what I've been told, it sounds like Beta has really tried to put things in place to do this correctly. I don't think they're the type of manufacturer, if they're taking this seriously, I don't think that they think this is going to be just an easy thing. I think they're probably expecting some hiccups. That's what I'm interested to see, not necessarily at round 1, but throughout the season. What comes up with the bike, with the riders in the bike relationship, and how as a team are they able to correct that? Because I think the ability to change the motorcycles and to know those machines inside and out in the conditions that they're under is what separates those factory manufacturers and factory teams from some of the others. It's just experience and having the knowledge and the understanding as to what's going on for the motorcycle. So to try to keep it short, you hit the nail on the head. Colt and Benny, 2 great riders. I think that is a smart thing that they did. Obviously, they didn't try to go and throw all of their money at a superstar because I think they know that there's going to be some work to come along with it. So I think Colt, from what I understand, he is extremely knowledgeable when he's testing, really well-spoken as well. I think that's something people don't talk about enough with Colt. He really is able to put even his race breakdowns, his interviews in the 250 days, even he's really good at capturing what's going on out there. And I'm sure that I feel like that transfers over to testing as well. Benny Bloss, I am curious to see how the size plays as far as the bike goes. I haven't heard how it compares to the other manufacturers' machines. But Benny, he's another one of those workhorses. He's going to be willing to put in the time. I think there's no doubt that Benny is grateful for the opportunity. I know on some previous podcasts, he had even talked about, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, possibly stepping away to find something else to do after racing. And so I think for me, it's just exciting to see him out there. So I don't really know as far as expectations where I place Beta right now. I haven't seen enough media and enough videos compared to other people to where I feel like I have a good grasp. But as far as putting pieces in place to do well, I think Beta's in a great spot.
Certainly, like in respect to Colt Nichols, he essentially goes from factory Alpha, which is Honda HRC, the factory Beta, and that's both hilarious and factual. like reality is this bike is still being developed for this type of racing. And with that is there's always going to be growing pains. What I can tell you about both these riders, one is a 250 Supercross champion, the other one is a Horizon Award winner, and they are both hailing from essentially the area around the Oklahoma area where like these guys are actually quite familiar with each other. I think they're good friends. So that's going to help the camaraderie around the truck. I think they're going to work well together. And also keep this in mind. Colt Nichols, extremely good looking man, and he always has. I know his girlfriend, absolute smoke show. If that's going to bring up the attendance around the fans and the like around the truck, I think that's all for the better, and certainly for team manager um, Carlin Gardner, who if nothing else is going to brighten your day, maybe Colt Nichols brings his chick to the race.
Yeah, well, whatever it takes, we'll put it like that. We're keeping the spirits high in any way we can come up with. Another team that I'm interested in talking about, and not one that needs too much time on just because they've got the one rider, but the big switch for the number 14 machine, Dylan Ferrandis. We've heard how much he's talked about wanting to be on a Honda. Now, I don't think it's any secret he was hoping for factory Honda when he was talking about this. But David Eller and the Phoenix Honda team stepping up and yeah, making things work. I know that Dylan came out and did some testing with the team, and next thing you know, there's ink on paper, and the Frenchman's going to be riding for the Phoenix team. So I think I am not only excited to see what Ferrandis is able to do with that. Ferrandis, a multi-time champion, obviously able to do it not only in the 250 class but the 450s as well. But this is a huge step for the Phoenix Racing Honda team as well. They have put riders in Supercross multiple times before, but it has been the 250 class primarily. They're one of the big dogs over in my world in the GNCC class. Their XC2 riders are phenomenal, and they've just bumped up some XC1 riders as well. That's even who J Law chose to go racing with. So that might tell you all you need to know. But no, I'm excited for the team. I know those guys. They're from right here in North Carolina, and they know it's a big step too. And I think that's one thing is you hear a lot of the media saying, "Oh, I don't know if they bit off more than they can chew. I don't know if they know what they got into." They do, I promise you. And the thing that I respect and that I like most about those guys is they know it's going to be a challenge, and they're looking to face it head on, and to put in some good results. So that's one I'm really excited for.
Absolutely. I think you hit a lot of good points there. I'll say this about the situation that Dylan Ferrandis finds himself in, and you're right. He probably like wished upon a star, and thought it was going to be a factory Honda. But with all the resources and the knowledge that comes with being on factory HRC, you also get some restrictions as far as like they've got some really hard and fast relationships with certain sponsors that there's no wiggle room. The bike has to be a certain way, it has to react a certain way, and they're not may not be as perceptive to the feedback for sometimes the testing of the riders. Not to say that they ignore the riders, but that has been talked about in the past, not even with Honda, but with other manufacturers, that factory teams just less open to making changes. Whereas, like if you're trying to look at going to Phoenix Honda as a positive, Dylan Ferrandis will have the opportunity to make any and all changes necessary for him to feel comfortable on the motorcycle, and Phoenix Honda will be obliged to make those changes for him. Moving into the first of, I guess you'd call the big seven now, because like there's like basically there's white KTM's, there's black K or no there isn't black KTM's anymore.
Well,
There's
some might
orange
argue that in the
KTM's.
250 class.
Yeah. There'll be those. Um, but there's red KTM's, there's white KTM's, there's orange KTM. Let's talk about the white KTM's, which is the Husqvarnas, Malcolm Stewart, and Christian Craig. We're talking about these guys at this point in the podcast. We're talking about guys who are yet to win a 250 Supercross or 450 Supercross rather. A couple former champions in that class. In fact, both of actually Craig won it with Star Racing. I thought both of them were Geico guys when they won their championships, but Craig rode for at least 4 different teams before getting his title. But both coming off of injury, but should be rolling in with a full head of steam. Both these riders had uncharacteristically bad starts to their seasons last year. Of course, Craig being a rookie, and Malcolm Stewart he didn't seem to have that whoop speed that we had seen in previous years. Can either one of them right the ship? Can both of them right the ship? That's the question.
Yeah, I feel like when it comes to the Husky guys, starting off with Christian, Mr. Smooth, you know, he's one of those guys Before Jett and before Chase came along, Christian was the guy everybody talked about when it came to just smoothness and this appearing effortless on the bike. Now, for Christian, I think you make a good point. He's got something to prove. Obviously, coming off of a big injury, a lot of time off the motorcycle. And these guys have got to hit the ground running. You know, I know they haven't had the gate drops they probably want. And it's much easier said than done. But for both of these riders, I feel like A1 is a huge thing for them. I know that there's probably you want to get healthy through the season. You want to get through the season entirely and be in it. But I do think that these guys need to make a statement early. If not round one, then round 2 or 3. But they really need to prove where they can be, especially in a field like this year, where you're going to hear it, where people are going to go from inside the top 5 to outside the top 10 from one round to another. It's going to be absolutely insane. My biggest thing for both of these guys, I just want them to stay healthy. And I know that's got to be on the top of their mind. Both of them, they're getting up there in age. They're starting to
They're both over 30.
Yeah, they don't bounce quite like they used to. And that comes to mind, Christian's got a huge family, a huge following with that. And that's great. I think that brings a lot of fans around Malcolm. It's hard not to like Mookie. And so for Husky, I think the vibes are there. I think these guys, in theory, should have had the time. They should be prepared. Now it's just time to go execute. So we'll see how they do. Now you jump over to the red KTMs, to Gas. Little bit of a different story with your two teammates. You got Justin Barcia, been there, done that. Obviously, I think he's a threat at A1. Like, I think people don't put him in the conversation enough. But I mean, if one race where Justin's like the guy, you need to be on the lookout for him. And so
got some weather in the area.
Oh, okay. So you never know.
Be a little soft.
We know that JB's not afraid of a little rain, and so could be exactly what Bam Bam's looking for. And then on the other side of it, you got Jorge Prado. Now, I'm excited for it. I know a lot of people kind of have some different opinions, and I've seen a lot of trash talking for various reasons on the interweb. Yeah. But that's pretty much our sport in a nutshell. And so we got to find something to complain about. But I'm excited for him to be here. My biggest thing, like beside his name, I have written out, don't get hurt. We've seen it before when some of these guys come over and they don't have the time. They're not quite as comfortable. They get in a race condition. These guys are, they're brawlers. So when the gate drops, they're going for it. And sometimes that bites them if they're not quite where they need to be. Now, if there's somebody that could do it, somebody like Prado, I think is the perfect example. From the little bit that I have seen of him riding, he looks smooth. The question is the intensity. Smooth is great, but all these guys are smooth on a perfect track, or when the lighting's right, or when everything's been built right. But when the track's deteriorating, when he's just got finished with one battle and he's already getting another one, he is a notoriously good starter as well. So that's something that he could find himself in, that quicksand scenario. He gets out front earlier. Next thing he knows, he's getting past. That can start to get in your head. So for me, Prado needs to just focus on his strengths, try to get out front, try to learn, and just stay healthy.
Yeah, totally agree with you. You can't really count Justin Barcia out, although he's coming off of not only an injury riddled, but maybe the most non-factor of a year that he's been. Yeah. They're like last year, he had a couple of podiums, probably led some laps here and there. Honestly, the years run together so much, I start to forget which one's which. But either way, I'll say this. He spent a good amount of time on that motorcycle. He should be used to it, so there won't be any adjustment there. Does he have the ability to still win races? I absolutely think so. I think he's in shape. His starts will be on point because he uses starting blocks that are about 6 feet tall. And Jorge Prado, I think, uses the same ones. So the real question is whether or not Jorge is able to stay within himself and just put in solid, consistent laps. I think if he finds himself in a dogfight with one of these seasoned pros, I don't like his chances of coming out on the other side the victor of that. Like, I think if he gets into a battle with Jason Anderson, I think that, just for example, I think that that doesn't end well for Jorge Prado. But in a lot of ways, I also think that there's probably a low chance that the two of them see each other much aside from time qualifying throughout the weekend. And that's when we roll straight into the green machine. the Team Green boys, you know, they're close to my heart. I got a box full of ditch pickles in my garage as well. You yourself are also a Kawasaki pilot. A couple of guys who they honestly, just like the Husky guys, they both need a get right year.
Yep.
Jason Anderson, down year last year, got nicked up a little bit, didn't finish the season as strong as he would have liked. Adam Cianciarulo, the elbow issue, the hands, like it's unfortunate because I think no matter how the career ends up with Adam Cianciarulo, the career accolades and the championships won't stack up the way they probably a lot of people predicted they would. But regardless of that, there's still a lot of meat on the bone when it comes to Adam Cianciarulo. How do you see it all playing out?
Yeah, it's funny now with Adam. You even see in some of his posts, he's called himself kind of not the old guy, but he's seasoned at this point. He, especially as young as he went pro, and to your point, the expectation that Adam had coming into the pro ranks, and quite honestly, I feel like that only increased due to his success moving straight into the pros. It's an interesting spot, and Adam obviously one of the more philosophical guys. Another one, you talk about somebody that can put it into words.
Very self-aware.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it would that's on my bucket list. I want to call some races with Adam Cianciarulo. I'll go ahead and put that into existence right now. But Adam
Put it
is
in the world.
absolutely, yeah. We're gonna speak it into existence or whatever the kids are saying. But no, I think Adam. I think you're right. I think there's still more to prove, and it's hard to tell based off of what we're told on social media because we know how reserved and how close these guys keep their weaknesses. While it hasn't been a secret, how well that things have changed and how well the recovery is going is still a question mark. But one thing that we can take away from this previous year that he did have, and I feel like you could even say for both of these riders, they had the flashes. So it's not like where they just kind of you look back over the year and you're like, man, he was out there, but I don't really remember anything. Like you did have these flashes where Cianciarulo would all of a sudden he was able to put at least the start of a race together. And while even sometimes the results may find him outside the top five, I do think that those matter. And I do think that somebody like Adam's going to try to hang on to that to show that he does still have the intensity, he has the ability. It's just the getting healed up and getting to where he can hang on for the entire duration. As far as Anderson goes, yeah, I'm curious to see where he comes in A1 as far as the finishing position. I feel like Anderson is one of those guys, if he can get some momentum going, he's almost got a little more fight in him.
He's
I don't
won an
want to say,
Anaheim one. His
yeah,
first
well, and
Anaheim one.
yeah, and when he puts himself in a great position off the bat, it's like going each round after that. It's like this guy shows up and he's just on another level. Whereas I feel like in sometimes, especially in the beginning of series, if he finds himself, on the backside of the top 10 due to whatever, it's almost like it takes him a minute to really get that fight going. And sometimes by then it's too little too late. And with this year being the deepest field we've ever seen, right? It's going. I cannot stress how important this first race is. I think this first race is going to be insane. Your first three races are going to set the tone, and I think not to throw it back to GNCC, but this previous season we had different winners. Yeah, we had different winners going exactly all the way down to the final round was our eighth winner, and what it was it wasn't who was able to string together the most wins. It was who was able to manage their bad days and keep it up there throughout the year. And I think that's going to be a lot of the strategy we see this year as well in this 450 class, where it's, hey, you may have a podium run one day, but you can't afford backside of the top 10. You got to be inside the top five. So the Cali boys, I'm excited to see. Now, jumping over to the bananas, to the yellows. You jump over to HEP Suzuki. Take a look at Kyle Chisholm and Shea McElrath, both riders. I mean, Chiz is gonna chiz on the competition. What more can you say? I think expectations for him are managed not only from the fan perspective, but from his own perspective. He seems very content with what he is able to do. He's probably going to be in a lot of LCQs, and he's probably going to make it through a lot of LCQs because that's his thing. And
He
so
skips his head about him. And I love that
exactly,
I
he does
actually
exactly what he
misspelled his
needs to
name.
do, and so I'm excited to see if he's able to keep it going in another year. It's impressive to watch year in and year out. Shane, Shane's got to try to do something to get himself back into the discussion. You know, I don't think he's a name that's going to come to mind right off the bat for championships. I think Shane has got to try to set some manageable goals, some reasonable expectations, and whether he likes it or not, that might be trying to find inside the top inside the top 10, you know, right on that top 5 bubble. You know, that those are good results. And so we'll see what comes of the yellow team, but obviously you can't not talk about Kenny. I mean, I think I don't know if it's because of Suzuki, but I feel like he slips under a lot of people's like thought processes. Like they think of all the factory teams and they don't think of Suzuki. And then you're like, don't forget about Ken Roczen. And it's like
Don't you
the
dare.
the second that you do, he just goes and shows you once again why he is who Ken Roczen is. And so the motivation sounds good. You know, I always feel like you're going to get a dangerous Kenny when he's posting family stuff on social media. You know, he's posting a lot of videos where he's working out. He's got the kids hanging on him. Like he seems very at peace, very happy. And that's a dangerous Ken Roczen. So as far as the Suzuki boys go, I think just try to really stay consistent for Kyle Chisholm. Try to have some good rides, but consistency also going to be crucial for McElrath. And then Ken Roczen, I think your only advice is to go out there and try to win. So
Yeah, he certainly has the potential to be a race winner, and if he's able to get that, I think that is some momentum that he's proved it to himself, and he'll be a podium guy weekend in, weekend out. If there's a guy on this list that can start to take some points away from some of our title favorites, it's certainly Ken Roczen. Quickly touching on Chiz, and I do like that I misspelled his last name completely by accident, but I just so used to just calling him Chiz with a Z. And it is a Z, by the way, up here in Canada. Yeah, it's not a Z, it's a Z. A YZ80 just doesn't sound right to me, but what that's fine. Is that both Kyle Chisholm and it's Josh Hill who will both also be lining up this weekend. What do you think they have in common?
Chisholm and Josh, they probably raced each other a lot growing up. Probably some verb events or something, I would think, wouldn't you?
They were both featured at a Verb Classic, but they are the only two guys on the line who raced carbureted motorcycles.
Wow.
That means both those guys are old. Like,
Yeah, I was about to say that means you're getting up there.
yeah, no, it's getting all too real. But yeah, like I think Shane, I think like, I'll ask you this. Who do you think has a better season, Shane McElrath or Benny Bloss?
Hmm. I'm gonna say Shane, but I'm not sure that the reason will be Benny's fault.
Okay. Big beta questions going on there.
Yeah.
Let's move straight on to Star Racing Yamaha. They've got a big fleet of They must have like 9 trucks in the pits now to bring all those 250s out. But they've even got 3 guys in the 450 class. Like I think they're the only team on here that could actually sweep a podium if all things go well. And honestly, all 3 guys not too shabby. Every single one of them is at least a 250 champ. 2 of them are 450 champs. And yeah, kick things off. Might as well go with the guy who tore an Achilles last year. He was at the points lead at the time, relinquished it at that particular race. Eli Tomac coming off maybe not the most dominant season he's ever had, but certainly one where he was leading the points at the time. Like as far as the Achilles go, like the anatomy of a motocross racer depends on your Achilles a lot. You load it pretty much the entire time, unless you're a guy like you or I who ride on the arches of our feet. If you ride on the balls of your feet, you are activating your Achilles tendon at all times. What does that mean? Nothing aside from the fact that if it's healthy, it's healthy. And is there possibility for re-injury? Of course, but that's literally any like ruptured tendon that you've had before. Like if it happened once, it can happen again. I was told by my physician when my shoulder got fixed, my shoulder will never be better than before it got torn the very first time. So that being said, is it possible for re-injury? That's absolutely, but there's not a single guy on this list that isn't susceptible to some sort of injury at some point. Ryan Villapoto, after wrapping up a championship in 2012, put his leg out at the I think it was the St. Louis Supercross first corner, tears up his knee, still wins the title because he already had the championship lined up. accidents can happen. So I'm going to take that conversation and just wipe it right off the board. Tell me what you know about Eli Tomac.
Man, I mean, what do you say other than Tomac is going to come out? I think in a way we've never seen, because you take not only obviously the Achilles was a crazy injury at the time. He was leading as far as the series goes, and there's controversy around that as far as whether just the way all of that happened. You know, he's one of those figures in your head where he almost seemed indestructible, right? It's just like the bulldog Eli Tomac, and then all of a sudden he's riding with his leg off the bike. As far as the injury recovery, I agree with you. I don't even think it needs to be a part of the conversation. I think the guy he's one of those, he's not going to rush it. I think because he's got that close circle around him, obviously a very close family man as well. I
Three
think,
kids now?
well, not only on the having a wife and kids, but you look at, I mean, it's no secret that sometimes motocross families, they end up having a falling out at some point, if not multiple points throughout
Yep.
career. You look at the
Both with
Tomacs,
both parents.
hey, I won't let you down, Pop, on Mini Warriors 3 as he's lassoing his bike, and it's still father and son week in and week out at the races. And that's one of the things that I love the most about Tomac. But what that means to me is the trust is there like no other. You don't trust anybody like you trust family. He's getting good advice. He's got a good circle around him, which means to me, if he says he's healthy, he's healthy. And he's been made very clear, even in that Supercross preview show, not that he's ever a wordsmith, but he said, no, I'm here to win. And you take the hype that has gained over this kid, this Jett kid that just, you know, is going to set the world on fire, and he's going to be the next McElrath. It's going to be a decade before we see another winner. I think Tomac is enjoying that, because I think he enjoys showing you exactly how wrong you are. And so that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting a Tomac like we've never seen. And I cannot wait for it. I'll put it like that. When that guy is on a roll and he is feeling it on all levels, he does things that make your jaw drop, and he does them. They're not even flashy. It's like little things that you go back and watch and you're like, holy crap. And so I'm excited for Tomac. You take the number 3, you drop down to the number 2, Cooper Webb, another one making a big switch. He's one of the industry changers, and I think you can't write Coop out. He is a Carolina boy, so there's a little bit of bias on me. I'm a big fan of Coop, but I'd be lying if I said that's why. I'm a big fan of Coop because he's always coming from amateurs, and he's talked about it. It was kind of being in Adam's shadow. He's got this chip on his shoulder. He's not scared to say it. And I like that he plays the mind games. You know, I like the smack talk. I like the sly confidence that a lot of people don't like about Cooper. I think it's what makes him who he is. And I know he's coming out to prove something as well. I don't think his SMX debut was what he wanted or what the team wanted, but I look at it like, think if that was A1. Think about how much he'd be trying to catch up during the season. So to me, it was a smart decision to get out there, get on the new machine under race conditions. They've had that entire time after SMX to make those adjustments. And so I'm expecting big things out of Coop this year as well. Now to the other Coop, Justin Cooper, that is
It is
where
weird there's multiple Coops.
Yes, there's Big Coop, and then I think Justin Cooper is going to be he's got something to prove, right? He had to earn this spot on the 450s full time. He is a champion, like you said, but Cooper in the 450s,
He was
I don't
strong
know.
last year.
He was
Oh,
strong. He was strong. And that's what I mean. I don't know where to put him. I do think sometimes he's a little start dependent. And if it's not there, there's so many guys that are good starters. If he's not able to consistently get the starts that he needs, then I don't know if you see him coming through the pack. Whereas I do think some of these other guys, they maybe can't afford like a 12th place start, but if they are just outside the top 5 or something like that, they're going to be able to work their way through. So I don't know. I'm curious to see how he adjusts full time on the circuit in the 450 class. But like you said, I don't think you can sly his talent. I don't think you can say that you don't expect good things out of him, because he's shown he's capable of doing it.
no, he certainly has. And like I wasn't joking. All 3 of these guys have the potential to sweep a podium. First time that we'd seen that since that Chad Reed, Tim Ferry, and Villeman powerhouse from 2004. Those guys did that more than a couple of times. But yeah, I think it's a little bit more of an outside chance that Cooper ends up on the podium. Like you said, I think he's going to take him a start. Let's move over to the big red machine. Pair of brothers on this one. A lot of brotherly love going on. And they might brotherly shove themselves to the front of the pack on a regular basis. Jett Lawrence, he has been basically just crowned and announced by all fans everywhere. Who the guy doesn't have a single Supercross win, but apparently he's going for 73. Yay! Like you can't take. Yeah, like I have a hard time doubting the kid because he's basically just like every time I doubt him, I live to regret the day. But I'll tell you this. Just throwing out some facts here. There have been two guys who have won the championship in their rookie season. One was Jeremy McGrath. Oh no, he's just behind me right there. He went 72 Supercross wins. He averaged, I think, about 7 wins a year in the class, including one where I believe he had 14 wins. Absolute, he's the king, absolute king of the sport. And the other one was Ryan Dungey, who, for all intents and purposes, 2010, that championship, like ifs and buts or candy and nuts, but that championship probably should have gone to Ryan Villapoto had he not broken his leg at St. Louis that year. But he did break his leg at St. Louis that year, so kind of a moot point. Regardless, both these guys extremely talented. But I don't. Jett Lawrence is not my championship favorite for this championship. I think he's going to have a strong year. I think he's going to win some races. I think he might even come out and to win Anaheim 1. But it's a long series, and things can happen, and it's awfully hard to do it in that first year. He's got lots of career ahead of him. I'm not sure if this is gonna be the year. I'm excited for both these guys though. I would love to see both these guys on the podium at some point. That would be a cool moment for them.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see the brother dynamic. We did get a little taste of it over there, over in Paris with the contact, and
Yeah,
I like it. Don't get me wrong, and they played nice. It seemed like everybody was okay once everything got talked out.
that wasn't for real though.
Well, exactly, and I think when it is for real, that's when you're going to start to see that maybe get a little more tense than you think. Because like people talk about the Chase Jett dynamic. Well, Chase and Jett don't share parents, and they don't share everything else, basically. So and when you take a closed circle and then you're splitting it in two, I'm just curious to see how it works. I'm not saying that I don't think it's going to work well. It might be the exact thing that we need, and we may be looking at a Lawrence 1-2 repeatedly. But I personally don't think that's what's going to happen. I am curious to see how Hunter adjusts to the 450 class. It is interesting to think about Jett isn't a Supercross 450 rider yet. This is kind of still new for him as well, and so it'll be. But you can't ignore what Jett just did. The third person in history to ever have a perfect outdoor national season.
Sure.
I mean, it's. But what more do you say? I mean, you talk about somebody who was like, "There's no way it'll ever happen." I was laughing people out the room, and then I was laughing a little quieter, and then I was saying no, it wasn't going to happen, but I was a little quieter, and then the next thing you know, with a couple rounds to go, I'm like, never mind, I want it to happen. Like this would be history, and so that was cool, but I don't think that's going to be what we're going to see. I think this is just it's a different animal, it's a different game, and I want to see how Jett responds to that. Hey, man, you can't win them all, despite what people might tell you, and despite what your outdoor national track record might say. But you've got to learn to handle those seconds and those thirds. And sometimes we've seen riders, when they are accustomed to doing extremely well, when they find themselves in positions, they start almost over trying and overriding into mistakes. And that is the absolute last thing I want to see. Jett is too big of a figure, and he's bringing too much attention to the sport. Sure, I get a little burnout on him. I think a lot of your day-to-day racers, as far as the actual broadcast goes, I think NBC really sees a marketable kid and a good. I mean, how do you not like him? Like he's a nice guy, as far as I know. He's kind to everybody. Like
From down under.
Yeah, exactly. I'm all on board on that. It's a great family story. And the same thing with Hunter. Hunter's, just a stand-up guy. And so I expect on that top five bubble for Hunter. And then for Jett, I think it's, obviously on the podium, but I don't know if I think it's going to be him in the end. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was, but that's not my prediction. Now jumping over to the one team we've got left, the Red Bull KTM team, another big switch on the big number 4 machine now, which that's going to take a little getting used to. You got Freddie
I'm gonna
Noren.
think he's Blake Baggett for at least 2
Yep.
weeks.
Well, and at least there's that. You got like Freddie Noren on the 22. That still takes me a second.
I
Just a quick
spoke
second.
with let's touch on this just slightly because the cosmetics of motocross are important to me. And I was told by team manager and racer of the Mad Parts Kawasaki team, Bubba Pauly, who is miraculously coming back despite missing half a thumb, that the 22 on the bike is their attempt at the copy of the 2004 font. Now, as far as it's not an exact replica. It's close. It's as if you like described what that font would look like to a graphic designer, and that's what they came up with. And instead of making the proper changes and actually going with the exact 2004 digits, you just went with something. I'm not a fan of the font. Run the number 22 all you like. Really don't care. Hell, it's Talon Vohland ran that number. It was also belonged to the great Tim Ferry for like 2 different seasons, I think. Anyway, regardless, numbers can be passed on.
No,
But
I
as far
completely
as
agree.
that, I would have it would have meant something to me if they would have put more effort into like going exact to that number and a little bit of a pay homage to the 22 who ran that number and protected it so well and did it so much justice for so long. But it won't be that way. Also, before we move to the KTM team, I also want to also let everyone know that the nuclear element is back. Vince Freezy is lining up at A1. So, like, if you want to like any of these guys, like, there's someone who can ruin your like shit in your fucking
Mess kit,
cornflakes.
yeah.
It's Vince fucking Freezy. So, just let everybody know that like be on notice because that guy can come and ruin your afternoon. And honestly, and he's like, I'm gonna just go out and say it, he's gonna get a great start. He's gonna be top 5 start all day in this field. So, in either a heat race or a main event, he will be out there. Although I'm going to let you know how many guys we're about to talk to about after we get done with Chase Sexton and the 7 machine of Aaron Plessinger. Sometimes I look at names and just completely freeze. That was one of those moments. So let's talk about the 4 and AP7.
Well, starting things off with everybody's favorite cowboy, AP.
Aaron Day. Oh, okay. Aaron, yeah.
Aaron Dean, AP, baby. Hey, I won the Aaron Plessinger scholarship back in the day, so I've got a
That
little bit of
counts.
time. Yep, I got some AP's money there, but no, it's a fan favorite. I mean, arguably my favorite. I think he's my girlfriend's favorite. Like, it's hard to not like
He's
Aaron.
every girlfriend's
Yeah,
favorite.
that's what I mean. Like, and so it's just exciting to see him out there. And it's almost one of those things where I feel like people want him to get on the podium just because they want to hear his interview, maybe see him belly flop in the mud. Like, you just don't know what you're going to get with the guy. And when I heard you
That was a
say
risky belly flop. For those who
that was
remember,
no confident, no idea what lies underneath.
there
It's
were there were electrical wires running through it.
hey, maybe you just got to send it.
Yeah, no,
Hey, you know what he
absolutely.
did? He did it for Dale.
He did it
All
for
right, that's
Dale.
exactly what
Yeah, he
happened.
did.
So, but
Um, in all
but yeah,
seriousness, I think AP. I would love to see him win a race. Like he
I
got one
agree.
taken away from him. He was within 2 laps of it. You hate to see that. So I hope he gets one. Like I just hope he gets one. I don't cheer for anyone, but I love good stories and a good comeback story with him being able to like kind of put an exclamation point on that. I would love to see that for Aaron. And as far as Chase Sexton's concerned, I'll say this about Chase Sexton. He's a competitor. He will have fast qualifying, and there will be some moments throughout the year when he makes some mistakes. I think it's going to be a while before he completely cleans all of that stuff up. But that can be said about literally anyone on this list. And he's got that number one. It's a little bit of a target, but it's got to add some confidence too.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't even think about the fact that he's going to be number one for this just because of all the controversy with the number four.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think there's a lot of talk about Chase not adapting well to this change over the KTM machine. And I think he looks fantastic on the bike.
He looks good.
I agree. I think changing style and changing stylistic mistakes, which a lot of people could argue is leading to some of those crashes and those problems that Chase is having. I think it might take a little bit. I'm sure that he's been working on it. And who knows, with the change in bike, the change in setup, it might, some of those might correct themselves just based off of the way the bikes are different. And so I'm very curious to see how he comes out in round one. Chase, for some reason, as far as the championship goes, Chase reminds me of a Dungey in the sense of he thinks long term. He's the type of guy I can see he's at the point where he's thinking about round 11 at round one. And so I'm not expecting crazy flashes. I think if the opportunity's there, he's going to try to make something happen. But I think Chase is going to try to have a strong finish and really take some good notes walking away from this first round. They did not decide to do any off-season races. And so it sounds like he's just trying to really get tuned in where he's comfortable before he puts it up against other people. I do think off the bike, as far as the rumor mills and the talk regarding his mistakes and people arguing whether it's mental, and of course the comments that have been made about it being mental, being under the tent with Jett, I'm sure that's got to be, tiring after a while. And so I think I'm glad to see it. I think he was at a point where he needed a reset as far as his environment goes, and I think it's going to breathe some new life into him. You talk about people that are capable of doing it. Roger and Ian over at KTM, the entire team is just they're as factory as it gets. You want to talk about a factory race team, you think about KTM. And so I'm excited to see what he's able to do, and I'm expecting him to be in the title hunt for sure.
Certainly. I don't think there's been a defending champion more doubted than Chase Sexton rolling in. I think the consensus is that most people don't even have him as the title favorite to defend. Although
I'll argue that. I'll say I think Anderson was doubted more afterwards.
Probably, you're not wrong about that. That is maybe as the most spot on analysis you've done, and it took about an hour into the podcast for you to pull out that.
Sorry, I'm awake now. My bad.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Hey, we're firing on all cylinders. We're gonna try and keep this within an hour and 15 minutes. We haven't touched about the 250 class just yet, and we still got a game to play. But we're gonna try and wrap this up as quickly as possible, just because I know everyone's time is very precious, and so is mine. So, of this list, is there anyone that we talked about today that it would be like super stoked with getting 19th this weekend? Chiz?
That's who I was about to say. I don't think stoked is the right word.
Like, stoked isn't the word, but he's like, I put it in the main. And
yeah, he's in the main, and he got, I think Chiz could have a bad night, not get hurt, maybe have a mistake early or late in the race, and he's content with it. I don't think he's happy with it, but he's content with it. But no, as far as the rest of the field, there's gonna be a lot of disappointed riders. I'll put it like this. And I mean,
I'll put it to you this way. Is there anyone on this list who could finish 12th or worse and be like, that was a good night? Because there's gonna be like 7 of those guys.
Yeah.
7 of these guys that we just talked about are going to they're like, that's fucking just mathing that 7 of these riders will end up outside the top 12 and have to go back to the drawing board, whether that's Christian Craig or even Jorge Prado, Adam Cianciarulo. Also, for those interested, hit up Checkers to play his survival. If you're not playing PulpMX Fantasy and because you don't live in the right state, you can play Survivor. And it's basically you have to pick someone to get in the top 10. And as soon as you pick someone, that eliminates them from your picks for the rest of the year. And yeah, lots of people pick like someone who is going to be on the fringe, and then they're out immediately at the beginning of the year. But yeah, like I said, there's going to be some disappointed people leaving Anaheim 1, as there always is. There was one year where Christophe Purcell did not make the main at Anaheim 1. That was 2018.
Yeah,
Aboard a factory Husqvarna.
I know. I was just about to say that's what I was trying to think was what bike he was riding there.
Yeah,
Um,
ugly looking motorcycle.
yeah, it was not the best. Yeah, it's going to be. I think that's gonna show some. It's going to be a little bit of a character check. I mean, I hate to get too deep as far as the mental side of things going, but you got to think about a lot of these riders are not going to be accustomed to the positions they're going to find themselves in. You've got a lot of different riders and new riders coming in with a plan and with a point to prove. And the get knocked down 7, stand up 8, whatever movie quote or example you want to put in here. Some riders are going to have to take a look in the mirror and really figure out what they've got under the hood and what they're able to do, because I think A1, while I think it's going to be exciting and there's going to be a lot of guys that are fully prepared, I do think A1 is going to catch a couple people off guard. I think there's going to be a
Always
couple
does.
people expecting some top 10s. They're going to find themselves 13th, 14th, and they're going to have a rude awakening, because we've always got those wild guys, the ones that are not on this list as far as your factory efforts or your big teams. And hey, they want a slice of the pie too, and they're hungry. They're working for this. And so yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I'm interested to see who finishes 14th and 15th just as much as I am to see who finishes first, second, and third. I'll put it like that.
Certainly. No, to completely agree. There's a few guys that have a pretty wide range of outcomes. Just a guy like Dylan Ferrandis, he got 2021, I believe it was 21, was the first round of the year. He ended up with a second behind Justin Barcia, and that he could very well be outside the top 10 at the end of Saturday night's action. Before we move over to the 250 class and give some brief analysis on not only who will be racing that class, but also who our sort of title favorites are. Before we go to this quick game, give me your top 3 prediction for this championship? Go.
For championship or A1?
Both.
Both. All right. A1, I'm going to go. I'm going to go Ken Roczen, Eli Tomac, and I'm going to say Jett finishes the podium.
Yeah, we're gonna have a similar podium here. I'm gonna go with Eli with the win, followed by um Eli, Chase, Jett. I think Jett doesn't have the best. I don't know why. I see him getting not the best of starts on the
Yeah.
450, and then like I think he still like climbs to third, but like like kind of like like got the first one out of the way, and off we go to the rest of them. Championship.
Man, this is a complete just shot in the dark, because
Yeah,
I
that's what
feel
we're
like
doing here.
each one of these big guys has their own big question mark. I'm gonna say A1 predictions. I think we should do 3 different championship predictions
Mm.
throughout the season. All right, from like rounds 1, rounds 5. We'll talk later.
Okay.
But A1, I'm feeling as far as the championship goes, I think you're gonna have I'm gonna say Tomac. I think Tomac gets it.
Agree.
I think I'm gonna say I'm gonna surprise some people here. I'm gonna say Cooper. Cooper Webb gets second, and then
Okay.
I'm gonna say Jett third.
I'm gonna go with Eli with the lead. I'm gonna go. That's your championship. I think Jett is a distant second, and then I'm gonna put Roczen in the third spot. I think
And I could
that's my top
easily
three.
yeah, I could easily see that being 100% correct. Like that's what
Yeah.
I mean. You could give me 15 different examples or
And
different
that's not a slight on Chase Sexton. I just
on
that like
anybody.
that's just what I'm feeling rolling in. I think who has the most amount of sort of momentum, Kenny being like say what you will about the World Supercross Championship. He just wrapped up a Supercross Championship on a Suzuki. He's the only other guy that led laps aside from Jett this last year in the outdoors. Yeah, he knows his motorcycle, familiar with. He's gonna have a new mechanic this year, but I like it. So I put him on the 3 spot. All right, so let's do a top 5 ranking
Okay.
of your 450 teammates. Like
All right.
who would
So
you rather have in
number
this
one is
hat
like
right
who I
here?
would want to have the most.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Let's
and
do it.
knowing full well when I picked the first one, that could be it could be your number one, but there could be a better option in there. So yeah, don't throw someone on the 5 spot knowing that you're gonna have to rank someone higher afterwards. Once you've picked someone at a certain level, they are not moving from that spot.
I've got you. Okay.
All right, and then you're gonna do the picking, and I'm gonna do the heckling from my side of things. I'm not gonna be picking. So first one out of the hat, the Vurbmoto hat. We're gonna have Aaron Plessinger.
Oh, it's over, folks. That's number one.
One.
End of day.
One.
End
I
of
had a
day.
feeling that there isn't anyone on the list that could probably go higher than that. So
I was just about
that
to
that
say,
one's easy.
yeah,
Damn, that one
I'm
was too
almost
easy.
disappointed that was first because that was
Yeah,
like it's over.
no kidding. All right. Go Chiz.
I will say four.
This is a solid 4. I thought I probably would have put him 3 just because
Yeah, I was debating three or
you did
four.
have Josh Hill.
I'm gonna say five.
Oh, that's just hating on Josh Hill.
I'm sorry.
All right, though. Someone's got to be 5th. Eli Tomac
I'm gonna put third.
on the 2 spot. Oh, all right. All right. You
Yep.
know full well that Vince Freezy could be the next one I pull, correct?
Hey, I'm not saying that's a bad teammate to have.
All right. Well, he might run some interference.
Yeah, I might be onto something there.
We might be on something. In the 2 spot, you have Shane McElrath.
I'm fine with that. Shane's a Carolina boy like me. Used
There
to
you
race
go.
his
You
brother,
guys would
so
probably like knock down some Call of Duty is what you do.
I was never a video game guy, but I did race his brother
Fair
quite
enough.
frequently. Yep.
Okay, fair enough. Well, yeah, there's your top 5. You have number 1 with AP, and McElrath, Tomac. No, yeah, McElrath, Tomac, Chiz, and rounding things off with the 44. The 44 machine. That'll look weird. Of Josh Hill. For some reason, I think he should have been able to just keep the 75.
You imagine Aaron Plessinger and Herrin Dean taking on the town?
Oh, if you guys
Whew.
would paint the town red as that hat.
I'm just saying.
This is an audio podcast. No one can see what you're wearing unless they're watching my YouTube. Okay. Like I said, we went over the 1 hour time limit, but rules were made to be broken, and we're going to try and wrap this up as quickly as possible, as efficiently, without and still do this justice to talk about the 250 West predictions. Unfortunately, for everyone who lives on the West Coast, you will have to be put on ice, as you were last year, if you wanted to see the one, the only Danger Boy, Hayden Deegan. He will be beasting out on the Easting. But when we talk about 250 West, we've got some heavy hitters. Let's talk things off with, like I said earlier, we both are fans of the Ditch Pickles. So let's go straight to the Pro Circuit Kawasaki's, the number 20 machine of Maximus Vohland. His teammate will also be Levi Kitchen, a couple of boys that have born and raised in the Pacific time zone. And both are looking to improve their results from last year. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Max Volan's in a pretty serious spot as far as needing to make something happen.
Yeah,
It's no secret he
pressure's
had
on,
some
baby.
flashes very early on over at KTM, but
2 year deal though, right?
I believe so. So I do think, and
Yeah.
I think that's a show of trust there. We'll put it like that. I think
Sure.
I do think he's got the potential and he's shown it, but for some reason something just wasn't clicking. I don't know. Behind closed doors, these guys talk. The community is rather close, whether or not somebody's comfortable on a motorcycle. So who knows? But regardless, he's on the green machine now. Again, you talk about a fresh start, breath of fresh air, even just being around different mechanics and things being in different places. It can bring a new life to your game on the weekend. So I'm expecting big things out of Max. I don't know where I put him as far as title contention or finishes, but I think he needs to be, fighting for those top fives, fighting for podiums, and he's got to stay consistent. You flip over to Levi Kitchen, another rider making a big switch over from Star Racing Yamaha, which is kind of a different switch. I think obviously Star is looked at as kind of the big dogs in the class, I think. And Levi had the spot. They picked him up coming out of amateurs. And so I'm curious to see whether he's got a chip on his shoulder or not. Talking, Levi doesn't really give you a whole lot as far as motivation goes. Yeah, I'm going to go do what I can do. And so just kind of nonchalant in tone, but on the bike, he does have this aggressive style when he's really feeling well that I like. And I think he's one of the riders that I could see surprising a lot of people. So curious to see what happens with the green machines. Dropping down to another rider who is not new to this. And I don't think it's going to be any secret as far as the crucial point for him. Talking about Rj Hampshire there on the Husqvarna. He's got to stay off the
3 years old.
Yeah, he's got to stay off the dirt. And I mean, I like RJ a ton. He's a great rider, and I think anybody you ask will tell you the same thing.
Yep.
But it's the crashes, and it's
when he wasn't on the ground last year, he was second every time.
It's insane. I mean, the guy has got crazy speed, but the mistakes have cost him too much, and unfortunately, it's starting to become too much of a signature move for him. And so whether that's taking a second or taking a third and settling a little bit, whatever it is, he's got to start finishing races and being in the discussion for titles in the second half of the season. I don't think nobody questions whether he's fit. Nobody questions whether he's able to ride. It's just whether he's going to be in the picture late in the race. So that's kind of the feeling I've got for RJ.
Yeah, completely agree. Also want to give a side note that I think Maximus Vohland and his dad Talon Vohland, as his uncle is Tyson Vohland. Talon Vohland, first father-son combo to both ride for the same team, I'd imagine.
I wasn't going to say that because I wasn't 100% sure or not, but I am fairly certain.
I'm fairly safe on that.
Yeah.
There isn't a lot of like father-son combos, and as far as team goes, I think that one would certainly suffice. Jo Shimoda. I like everything about Jo Shimoda rolling into the 2024 season, aside from the font that his numbers are at. It's like, I don't know where that comes from. It's not my favorite. And you know what? It's not even it isn't a visual thing, but it's also, as an announcer, I feel personally attacked because from anything more than like 40 feet away, that number just looks like a blob.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I feel like these are the things that focus groups and stuff look at. Maybe I'm not sure how they came to the conclusions.
This needed to be tabled by like at least 10 people.
I don't know what it was, but I agree. I think there has been a lot of talk about it. So who knows? Maybe it's all just about the buzz. I think Shimoda is going to be more
bad press
of making his own buzz. I'll put it like that. The numbers are great, but I think the writing's going to be there to back it up. And I think that he has got to be looked at as one of the title favorites. Moving over to Honda, it's no secret what that team is capable of doing. You talk about championships. They're coming off of some 250 championships there. I think it is really going to be a big year for Joe. I want him to get through round one healthy. But I think he's got to be lining up expecting to win. Now on the other side, his teammate Chance Heim is coming back from injury. I'm excited to see what he's able to do. He was a big name coming out of amateurs. We got to talk to him a little bit at Loretta's this past year, working, I believe it was an ACL injury. I can't quite remember, but coming back from it, and based off of what he's put out on social media, he's back on the bike. He's feeling good. And so excited to see what he's able to do on the other coast. But yeah, I think Joe's going to be the big dog, and I think he's got to take that position to heart right off the bat. I think he's got to come out aggressive, and that's kind of been a little bit of his weaker link is just the aggression there in that 250 class, because it's all out war out there.
It certainly is. And yeah, you talked about Chance Hymas quickly, just to mention the fact that he was groomed and is a product of the RMX series, of which one of the tracks on that series is Mesquite. That's where we host World Mini. That goes down April 4th through 7th this year. Registration is open for that. And word is that I won't be confined to the announcing booth. I think that'll probably be you. So I will be raising hell in the plus 25 class. And yeah, like just another one of those Utah boys that goes awfully fast. Same thing goes for the 26 machine of Garrett Marchbanks, who's going to be giving people like kind of flashbacks to Alex Martin, because he's going to be on the same team, the 26 on his bike. I'm going to think that he's Alex Martin for at least 2 or 3 races out there. Although stature wise, you can't
I was just
find
about
two
to
riders
say,
that are more of a dichotomy than, and maybe if it was like if Benny Bloss was running 26 and on club, that would maybe be the furthest departure from those two things. But Garrett Marchbanks, a man child compared to the Oompa Loompa, which I say with the most amount of respect for Troll, Alex Martin, who is quite short in stature. But yeah, like this would be one of the only last guys we talk about aside from maybe Ryder D in this field. But give me your thoughts on the Club MX machine of Garrett Marchbanks.
yeah, I think I'm not gonna lie. I think Garrett should be on a 450. I'll die on that hill. I think he
Yeah,
is more than shown that he's capable
that
of
engine
riding.
fits in that chassis.
Well, and I mean, again, you got to give the trust to the boys over at Club. They're putting a lot of great stuff together. They have all played musical numbers because I believe Phil Nicoletti, who's also going to be on this coast, is Garrett's old number now, 30.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then
What's the chances that Garrett like mistakenly just like on autopilot like swings a leg over the wrong bike at A1?
well, that's what I was about to say. If they crash, like let's say Phil and
Oh
Garrett come
no.
together, there's a big chance that he picks up Phil's bike and Phil will kill him. And so
Yeah.
we can only hope. But no, I'm excited to see what Garrett's able to do. He's a guy that I feel like while I think the club team is amazing, and I do think that he could be the guy to take club to a little more serious of a level as a team. I think that they're starting to open a lot of eyes, and I think Garrett is a part of that. And so I'm excited to see what he's able to do. But yeah, I mean, from those guys are a lot closer to my area. They're just a couple hours down the road, and from what I've seen from their vlogs and from what I've heard from people that go out and watch, he's rolling right now. He's looking really good, and got to be feeling good coming into A1.
Change of scenery for the 34 machine. Ryder D finds himself in a different manufacturer since the last time, or for the first time since he was, I don't know, 6.
Yep. Yeah, I put it like this. I got 3 big reasons why I like Ryder D in 2024. Okay. One is back
Troy
from
Designs gear.
2023. Do what?
The Troy Lee Designs gear is going to look good.
Well, okay, 3.5 then. But
Right.
last year in SMX, I feel like he was my standout 250 rider. I think he
Agree.
what for whatever reason, he really found his stride at the end of the year. I've got to feel like that's going to carry over. So there's one. Two, the introduction video with Troy Lee Designs. I'm sorry if you're willing to put that much work into announcing you're at that team, you're feeling good about it. I think it was awesome. I can't say how much I love that Troy and the entire team did that.
Yeah.
Third, he posted some pictures today of him riding, and he used an Alice in Chains song in the background. I mean, how do you argue with Rooster, as we've seen?
Yeah, no, we that is near and dear to both of our hearts. Will be for quite some time. A few guys that I also want to shed some light on who are like that are going to have good seasons. Nate Thrasher, former winner in this series, actually on the West Coast or the East Coast. In fact, both guys that are both star guys that are on the West. They spent the last couple of years out East, so that'll be a change for both Smith and Thrasher, who are used to maybe some softer dirt over on the East Coast. But if you're playing fantasy, or if you're just a little bit like more curious about the sort of some deeper talent, Carson Mumford as well as Mitchell Oldenburg, don't count either one of those guys out. They both have lots of speed and can put in some good results. Off the beaten path, you have some rookies in Lux Turner, who his sister's an absolute, like, she's crazy fast. I don't want to line up against her anytime soon. Lachlan Turner, like,
Auckland, yeah.
watch out for her. She's super fast. Julian Beaumer, he'll be represented for KTM. If you're mistaken, last year he showed up on a Yamaha, turned a ton of heads. And then you, as well as I know, Daniel Blair just like gets the claws out, gets him into the kid, and then he gets him over to the Orange Brigade. He is now a full-time KTM factory, and he is under the tutelage of one Davey Millsap. So I'm really excited about that. And last but certainly not least is Billy Laninovich. Like he's riding for Team Faith. He's almost 40 years old. He raced a two-stroke in Supercross. What else can I say about a guy who has been around longer than any of these guys? Yeah, like there's some guys he'll be racing against that weren't born when he turned pro.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting for sure. Just touching on some of those rookies. Yeah, the Turner is going to be. I think Turner is going to catch some people off guard, but I really think Beaumaire is going to catch some people off guard. Juju was just on another level out at
Yeah,
Loretta's, and
super
like you
fit.
said, between the backing of KTM, between the entire effort that him and Davey Millsaps are putting together, I think he's really going to catch some people by surprise. And I hope that he's able to put in a healthy and strong season, because maybe next year you really see him come into his own. Who knows? He might surprise me, but I definitely think that Beaumaire is going to be one to watch, and one that you might see play some spoilers later in the season as well.
Or
Once you
he'll be
start,
on the podium this
yeah,
year. I
yeah,
think
I
he
really wouldn't be
absolutely.
surprised.
I,
And
I
then
would not be,
and
and
then
he'll get good
Laninovich,
starts.
Laninovich put it like this: I'm excited to get to see the photos, man. The guy's got styles for miles, and
Mhm.
it's cool to have him out there on the Team Faith machine. That's awesome for those guys. And yeah, I'm excited to see what he's able to do, and glad to have him out there.
Before we hang up this call, and it's not an actual phone call, it's actually a Zoom meeting. Gotta talk about Team Solitaire. If you're not following Team Solitaire on social media, give your head a shake. Their team manager over there does a fantastic job with the social media, and he also happens to sign some unreal riders. I'm putting out a podcast later on this week that if you're not a fan of Cole Thompson, of which there are very many who are not fans of Cole Thompson for whatever reason, that might change your mind, because the guy is honestly, like, he's hilarious for one. Really cool to talk to. Him and myself, as well as Stu Baylor, sat on a couch, like total casting couch style, and really hashed it up for about an hour. It was supposed to be 15 minutes with him, and like this one, we pushed it long. And then also Robbie Wageman. I would not be surprised to see both those guys in the top 10 at the same race.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see. I do follow them on social media. I'm gonna emphasize what you said. It is worth the follow. If a team could be like Randy Richardson as far as just making you laugh
Yes.
on social media, it would be Team Solitaire. So without a doubt, check them out. And yeah, they're not just funny; they can actually ride motorcycles really well as well. To your point, I was out there at the shows as well. Didn't get to hang out for the casting couch. I think four's a little too many,
Yeah.
but for one couch. But I mean, hey, whatever you're willing to clean up. Regardless, I did see Cole spinning some laps. He was looking good. The little bit I got to see of him, and him and Robbie both, I'm excited to see in 24.
He is always a smooth operator. Herrin, otherwise known as Zac Herrin, here on the Vurbmoto broadcast. Oh, this is a podcast. Wes and the boys, they do broadcast. This here is a podcast found on podcast networks. We thank you guys so much for listening to this. If you're watching on YouTube, also thank you for watching the entire thing. And a reminder, for those, I'm sure if you're watching this part, you watched earlier or listened to the earlier part, that if you email me, Brad at Vurbmoto.com, in the caption, you need have contest, and then let me know why it is that you need to have some Race Tech Gold valves installed in your motorcycle. And yeah, I'll do some deliberating and figure out who it needs to be, and we'll get it back to everybody on whether or not they won. And yeah, best of luck to everybody. Best of luck to all the guys that we talked about today. As well as the other guys who will make up the field. And yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. Anaheim 1, just 3 days away, baby. The wait is over.
Absolutely. It's time to kick the 2024 season off. The deepest season yet, as we like to say. It's going to be exciting. I'm going to be tuning in, and it'd be nice to make it out to a couple of these in person as well. So we'll see if I can stir something up with that. But until then, brother, I appreciate you having me on, and I'll talk to you real soon.
Certainly. I'll probably see you at a Supercross, but I'll definitely see you out at the ranch. And speaking of which, you have a song available on Spotify. You've done some unique, like what was the right word for it? It's your own content, like actual like you
All
have
original. Yes,
you
sir.
make music. You are a recording superstar and have a song about going to Loretta Lynn's. So yeah, make sure people check that out. Plug that for us.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, like you said, you gotta have different skills to pay the bills. So I'm also a musician as well. And like you said, put together a song called Out at the Ranch about racing out at Loretta Lynn's. I have a lot of people tell me they don't get it because none of them ride, but I guarantee, even if you haven't been able to go out there yourself, if you know what it's about and you know what surrounds it, you'll get something out of that song. So you can check it out, Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud, wherever you get your tunes at. Check it out, Out at the Ranch.
Right on, guys. Thank you for listening or watching the Vurbmoto broadcast. And for now, we're out of here.